Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm very happy to be here today. I was missing last week in action, and I tried to watch you on TV and YouTube. Now, sir, the Barbados Optional Savings Scheme, Bill 2020. I remember it starting as before savings, and then it became a national median term. What that says to me is that it is symptomatic of this government to always get it wrong first time. They flounder. They do not come up with a proposal and sell it to you. They come with something. They have to go back and fix it, come back and fix it again. They don't think things through to the logical conclusion. That's the problem. This is the major problem I have with this government, you know. They always have to come and fix it. I was one of the persons who were completely opposed to the forced savings, and I didn't know what a national meeting term was, so I didn't know if to be supportive or opposed to it because I didn't understand it myself. Back then, I pointed out that you cannot force anybody to save. And certainly, you cannot give anybody, you cannot take out somebody's money and say, I'm saving it for you. The laws of Barbados do not allow it. Going back to the right excellent Grantley Adams, who first put in place a Protection of Wages Act in 1951. He was probably the most enlightened labor leader Barbados has ever had. And yes, and he was probably the last labor leader who looked out for the masses of this country, Grantley Adams. He didn't die a poor man, a rich man, because he was fighting for the workers. And one of the things that he put in place in this Protection of Wages Act was that it was illegal to pay people in anything other than legal tender. Legal tender is money. Some people like to call it coinage of the realm or coins of the realm, but it had to be in money. And when I saw his party moving away from that, I had a problem with it. I would always have a problem with it.
Your party?
His party. Okay? But let me, for the public servants, let me read for them clause 14 of this act, 14.4. I want to start with that. It says, for the avoidance of doubt and in the interest of clarity, where a public officer fails or refuses to indicate in writing whether he wishes to receive a bond allocation or not, he shall be deemed to have chosen to receive his bond allocation in cash. I have spoken to several public officers, and a lot of them have said to me, look, Mr. Franklin, this is my government, and I would like to help, but I can't. But I act in. So if I'm acting and I don't sign off on this thing, I might not get the act in the next couple of months. So I want the government to assure me and this country that some of the people who in the public service would like to but can't afford it, but are in acting positions and receiving acting allowance, will still continue to receive their acting allowance if they don't opt to take up what government calls their allocation. I would like to hear that assurance. I would sit down and get it and get that assurance from the leader of the government business, but he can't give it. Also, sir, I want to read clause 15. I'm going to do a lot of reading today. It says, notwithstanding any enactment to the contrary, for the purposes of this act, a portion of a public officer's emoluments may be paid in bonds with the consent of the public officer. These two sections are very critical. These two stuff. It's saying, one, you don't even have to sign nothing. Just if you don't sign, they're going to give you money. You can opt to get it, or you can opt to get some or whatever, or you can just don't opt at all. But if you don't opt at all, you, according to clause 14.4, soon to be section 14.4, you will get cash. And they cannot give you a bond without your consent. The law is very clear. So the government had to do this. They had no choice. When they went through their changes, they realized, we can't do it. It is unconstitutional. It is everything else. It's contrary to our international obligations that we've signed with the International Labour Organization, and it would have been difficult to amend the Protection of Wages Act because that act comes out of a convention that the government signed, and you cannot renounce the convention overnight. So it would have been difficult for the government to do that. So all I'm asking is that the government realize that there are people who cannot afford to take up what you call their allocation. This is a clever way of printing money, because you're not supposed to print money in this, we call it the Ernie and Burke program, I like to call it. So you are saying you're giving public servants bonds. You can't pay in bonds. You can't. The laws don't allow you. And what it would have been best is if the government had said to these workers, look, or everybody in the country, I'm going to float a bond for you, and if you want some, you can get some. You know why you can't do that? You have to drive fear in the public servants into taking it, because nobody will trust this government with their money again after you give that haircut last year. My credit union lost $10 million. Very expensive haircut. You can't buy nothing now. They're going to pay it to this new fella. Who getting a job now? We got to find money for him. Anyhow, that is not for this debate. It's, sir, this act amends the Constitution. If you look at the long title, it says, enacted by the Parliament of Barbados in accordance with Section 49 of the Constitution. That is language that says that if you are going to amend or alter the Constitution anywhere, you have to get a 2/3 majority. And why you needed to do that? Because in 1991, the government of the day didn't know what to do, and they resorted to cutting public servant salary that said that would save the economy. They couldn't come up with anything. They couldn't think. They didn't have the skills. So the best thing they could come up with is to cut people's salary. At first they proposed 10%, and then eventually came up with it was 8%. The Barbados Labour Party in opposition said it was unlawful and immoral. Well, the Privy Council put paid to the unlawful part, because they said that then the Civil Establishments Act says that you can vary the salary, vary meant up or down. So, but the Barbados Labour Party maintained that it was still immoral, whether it's legal or not, it's still immoral. And they're pledged to the civil servants, when they get into office, they will amend the Constitution to make sure that no government can easily, because you can still always amend the Constitution again, easily take away their salaries by ordinary legislation then. You've got to amend the Constitution to do so. And they did that by introducing Section 1, a new Section 112A to the Constitution. That section, I have it written out somewhere here, it says, the salaries and allowances payable to the holders of offices established under the Civil Establishments Act and the Defense Act shall not be altered to their disadvantage. So you can carry it up, or you can carry it down. And so amending the Constitution would only be necessary if this act was intended to disadvantage public officers. Because you can't pay me in bonds. You got to pay me in cash. So if you want to give me bonds, you got to amend the Constitution. So it is a salary cut, and you have amended the Constitution to accommodate it. Or you wouldn't have to unless you were altering the salaries to their disadvantage. That's what the Constitution provides. You know, you could only, if you didn't, let me since you are going to talk, don't let me stop you. If you are altering a person's salary to their disadvantage, you have to amend the Constitution. If you weren't going to alter it to their disadvantage, you wouldn't have to. And you are altering to their disadvantage, so you're amending the Constitution. I have no problem. I would like to see you do it right. And that is the problem I have with this party. You always get it wrong the first time. I well remember that debate in 1995. And I'll quote from Hansard a few times to let you see what the Barbados Labour Party's position was back then. Page 644 of Hansard, dated the 7th of February 1995. The speaker said, "Sir, I have no difficulty whatsoever in supporting this amendment to the Constitution because it seeks philosophically to correct a principle which, in my view, is flawed in its very nature, that the public servants of this country, who constitute only 25% of the workforce, that the public servants of this country, but only 10% of the population, should be the ones to bear the brunt of an adjustment in times of economic hardship. And that is our difficulty with this instance of 1991. The speaker went on again at 6:45 to say, "We in the Barbados Labour Party have determined that not only do we have confidence in ourselves to run the economy in such a way that we do not believe that it will ever befall us to have reason," no, I spelled that word wrong there. But philosophically, we feel that it cannot be right to ask 10% of the population or 25% of the workforce who cannot afford it, because we must look at their circumstances. It is not 10% of the population who owns 90% of the wealth in the country, but it was the public servants numbering 25,000 struggling to steer on a tightrope to keep ends together, struggling to steer on a tightrope to pay their mortgage, to be able to service other debts, to be able to keep their family together through the provisions of food and necessary items, and to have a basic, decent existence that all parties since independence have promised them. You know, this is the Barbados Labour Party speaking. And I'll get to the point about the protection of wages. The speaker then was comparing the Democratic Labour Party's position to that of the government, and it contrasted clearly with the previous positions of the Barbados Labour Party, who through the 1950s and again between the late 70s and the early 80s brought legislation to improve the rights of workers, not to take away the rights of workers, what we had fought for in the 50s, what Grantley Adams had fought for when he passed the Protection of Wages Act, so that you could no longer pay anybody in kind for their labor. So when you were doing this, you knew that you couldn't pay in bonds, and you said you can't pay in kind. You knew this all the way back in 1995. And then the speaker went on to say, sir, I just wanted to finish, sir, by restating the fundamental philosophical position that divides the Barbados Labour Party from the Democratic Labour Party government. And that is that under no circumstances do we believe as a political party and as a government that a government must use the right to cut civil servant salaries as a method of economic management in this country. They believe that may be because they have no confidence in their ability to manage the economy. That speaker that I quoted extensively from is, according to Hansard, the Honorable Miss Emma Motley. She knew better. So when she started with this for savings and national meeting turn, she knew what she was doing or what she was proposing to public officers was contrary to law and contrary to the philosophical position of the Barbados Labour Party. I like philosophies that remain steady, not shift when you need it to suit your purposes. I thought you kicked me out. You know, so your philosophy changes to suit your purposes. And I have a difficulty with a party who says this is our fundamental philosophical position, and then you resort to do the same thing that you say should never happen. No, you see, the thing is, they take the easy path. They come to the civil servants and take their money from them. You know, when we were in here writing off over $1 billion in VAT, we never thought we could want this money. And now the leader of government business today is telling me, I wrote it down, that our revenues are expected to fall by $500 million. Right? I'm telling you, I work it out.
Mr. President, the honourable member has just made an assertion. When we were in here removing $1 million of VAT, certainly since I've been in here, Mr. President, this site has not brought any bill speaking about removing any $1 billion in VAT. So I would like him to direct me where in Hansard, since he's an expert on Hansard, where exactly I would find the reference where this honorable chamber was busy removing $1 billion in VAT. If he can't find it, Mr. President, he has to withdraw that statement. Thank you.
Mr. President, I will oblige the leader by reminding him that the government wrote off VAT between 1996 and 2000. It was actually 1997, but they have 1996 in the legislation because in 1996 there was no VAT. They wrote off the VAT for those people who, did not pay in the money that they took from the customers who paid it in. And I said then, and I'm telling you now, that I went to the registration department and I looked in the VAT judgment register and I totaled them. And when I get to $1 billion, I stopped at the third. There were more. That is on record here.
Mr. President, again, the honourable member is misleading this honourable chamber. If he wanted to fully inform the chamber, he would say that the government, indeed the Prime Minister shortly after the election in 2018, it was not only VAT arrears that were removed between the period of 1977 and 2000, but it was indeed all taxes, corporate taxes, income taxes, and the honourable member should tell the House that he also benefited in that regard, both in terms of VAT, in terms of corporate taxes, and indeed in terms of income tax. So if the honourable member wants to come in here and parade and talk about VAT for these, he must come with clean hands and let us know how he benefited, Mr. President.
Please don't applaud him. I've never been registered to play a VAT. I've never, when VAT started, your income had to be $60,000 or more to be registered, and I only make about 10. So I couldn't pay a VAT, and for any, I never registered to collect VAT, so I never benefited. The money that you're talking about is the income tax from 1968 to 2000 that you wrote off. And God knows how much that was. Because I also checked with the income tax judgment book, and there were people in Barbados with substantial properties in Bridgetown renting them out that didn't pay the taxes and didn't pay the VAT. And we let them get away with it, Trust me, go into the registry and look for that book, big book, and look at it. And you will see, the names will surprise you. I didn't give the president any notice that I will call any names in here today, but the names will surprise you. And somebody see them, they can be rich people. And just took the government's money because VAT, companies do not pay VAT, they collect it and hand it over. So when they collected, they kept it. One company in Bridgetown alone had $25 million in principal. Not penalties and interest, $25 million in principal. And they refused to pay it to anybody. They kept it. They even had promotions at the end of the year, and they give people cars and all kind of stuff, and out of the VAT money. And government should have been going after them, not asking civil servants to pay, not asking civil servants to sacrifice the meager dollar, because let me go back to 1991. In 1991, government recognized that civil servants were skating on thin ice, because when they took the 8% from some of them, the net salary ended up at $0.00 for a lot of them. The reason why it only shows $0.00 is that the computer was not programmed to give minus. Civil servants' lot have not changed since then. So a lot of these people who you think making money, their mortgages and their car loans and stuff come right out of their salaries. And then if the wife might have to buy the food because you're paying the mortgage and stuff, the fella sometimes ain't got the money to pay gas at the end of the thing. So this is the same people you're asking to put their money in this thing. Now I'm glad that you made it clear that it's optional. Because, sir, those people can't afford it. Go to the people who got the money. Go to the people who you are going to give this $150 million to. The thing had said $110 million, that means, but when I multiply 8.5, I get, by the 18 months, I got $153 million. So you're telling the people be looking to get $110 million, but in fact, when the legislation come out, you are saying that you are taking away $153 million, I think it is. So we don't know when the government is pulling a fast one or not. Or somebody can multiply out. Very good.
Mr. President, I don't understand the language that the honourable member is using. I was clear. I said roughly $150 million in 18 months. I said so when I spoke. So for the honourable member to be saying that the government is pulling a fast one, he thinks he's really going a bit too far there.
I don't mean to let you keep jamming up all the time. So let me help you. You know how to do the maths, and you work it out yourself. But they were saying, the other people, not you, the other people were saying in the press and all over the places, $110 million, and they want $110 million fiscal space to do these things. You, on the other hand, sit down, work it out, and get $150 million. Which is commendable. It shows that at least somebody up there can multiply. So I don't have a problem. It ain't only you. So, well, if it's only you, you can go become one of those ministers in the Ministry of Finance too. But you, because they got so many of them, I don't think they need you. But except that the mathematical skills that these brothers got, they might need your mathematical skills. So I want to address this act, even though you say it is optional. There are some things that you cannot do to people. You see, this act is supposed to be for public servants, but the definition, public officers, but the definition of public officer in this act, or this bill, it's in the act yet, says it has the public officer has the meaning assigned to it by Section 117 of the Constitution and includes employees of bodies corporate established by law for public purposes which are funded by monies voted by Parliament. This is really statutory boards. Government rushing to do these things don't look at other pieces of legislation, because the Protection of Wages Act definitely protect these people, so you can't pay them in bonds. You can't cut their salary. You know? So it shouldn't even be applying to these. Because if you, let's say you were taking money from me, I go to the Employment Rights Tribunal and said that you would dismiss me, because if you cut my salary without my consent, statutory boards are not public office. So they are governed by the same laws as any company in Bridgetown. You know, you have this impressive list. It says it includes members of Parliament, members of the Senate, including the President and Deputy President. Mr. Deputy President, let me help them. You don't get no salary. And so when they said they can cut your salary to where, you know what I mean, it's just people saying don't doing words, writing words, but I'm thinking, making people that you get a lot of money, you don't get paid. But, you know, I'm very serious. It isn't making people look dumb to beg you for money. You know, the Deputy President of the Senate does not get a salary, but we're going to cut it here. You know, I don't like shoddy work. And this is shoddy. Even in the punctuation and something, I can show it on the road later, you know. So we have to be careful how we do things. This bill is amending the Constitution to cut the salaries for public officers. But it isn't amending the Constitution to cut those for judges. Because judges and the Auditor General were protected prior to the 1995 Constitutional Amendment. And we put the public servants on the same footing. So now that you're amending the Constitution, why you're not cutting the judges? They are sacrosanct. They're not included. So my difficulty is that this was another rush job. A complete rush job, and you get it wrong every time. And you dress it up in a lot of fancy language and try to make people make it more palatable. Read Clause 5, sir. Clause 5 said the purpose of the scheme is to provide a vehicle through which public officers may save a portion of their monthly emoluments for a period of 18 months by means of a bond. That, sir, is stretching the truth as far as you can get it. The truth is that this was intended to find $110 million, now come $153 million, to provide capital works. That's what you just told me. That's what the leader of government just told me. You told me so. I heard that on the radio. I read it in the newspaper. But you come here and do this little fancy language saying, well, it is give people. This has got nothing to do with it. If you had another way The public officers didn't get this opportunity to save anything. You were looking for money to pay those people out there to fix roads and do all that kind of fancy things. The people who, and you're saying that some of these people in the hotels will get jobs, you know, who got laid off and stuff, they will get jobs in these capital works and stuff. And that's another side of foolishness, you know. Because if you're building roads and fixing buildings and all kind of stuff, you have room attendants, barmen, and these are kind of people who ain't going to mix no concrete. So this isn't about giving the job to those people. Trust me on that. This is about giving jobs to those people who are not getting any work now and who help you financial campaign, so you got to find something to get them. That is all this government is concerned about, taking care of those who took care of them. And you're looking to find money because you really don't want the capital works now. What you should be doing is putting money in the economy so that people can spend it. Because if you take out money, the economy ain't going to go. I'm no economist, but sense it tells me, my little bit of common sense, not much, tells me that you don't take away money from people who usually spend it. Because I was telling you all along that public offices, most of them spend all the money when you might come. They ain't got no provisions to save anything. So if you want to stimulate the economy, get them more money and they will spend it. If you take it away from them and you give it to these people to build roads and do all kind of fancy things, those people are going to pay the workers pittance, cut the workers' salaries illegally, and keep the most of the money for themselves. Because I have seen where employers in this country, and I can tell you something now, people can be surprised. I'm not racist or anything like that, so let me put this up front. But I have represented people at some of these companies that will get this money. Black supervisors at this particular company I'm talking about, because I know this company had a lot of it, made a third of what the white supervisors doing the same job made. This is where this money going. I've had a case where I sat down and they took a black manager and asked him to deal with this trainee supervisor. They train him, you know. And the fellow now gets so excited when he gets the pay packet, he said the big check, he dropped the pay slips on the ground. Somebody saw them and said, wait, and showed the man that was training him. The man that was training him was making $9,000 a month. One of these same companies that can get this money. The black manager was making $9,000 a month. The trainee supervisor that he's training is making $18,000. So this is where the money is going, you know. It ain't going to the economy, stimulate the economic growth or anything. It's going to put some money in these people's pocket. So government, we think what you're going to do with this money, because we can hold off of these major capital works for the time being. Mr. President, I've said enough, but I want to repeat, and I want public officers to know. I'm going to close shortly. I want them to know, one, you can sit down and do nothing, and you will get all your salary. They can't do it otherwise, because people were saying, if I don't sign, they're going to take my money. They will allocate a bond in your name. You never asked for a bond, but this is a creative way, not very creative, you can see through it so easily. They put a bond in this and said that you can sell your bond. You don't have nothing to do with it. But if they want to do that, and if government wanted, I don't want to say deceive because that's not parliamentary. Help me with a word here. If they want to do these optics to make it look like they're doing something smart, other than printing money, because that's what they're doing, because the central bank will be taking up that money, will be taking up those bonds, and the worker can get some money. So the Treasury will not pay out the full amount. The central bank will pay some, you'll get yours. And that is a way to tell the International Monetary Fund, oh, our wage bill has been cut. It ain't cut. You know? It is just that we found a not so creative way to, and I think if the IMF falls for this, that they're dumber than I think. They can't. This is printing money. But you know you cannot print money under the Ernie program, the Burke program. So this is almost creative. Almost. But public workers, if you can help the government and you want to help them, I'm not going to get in your way. But rest assured, if you can't afford it, they can't force you. And if you're acting and they will stop you from acting for whatever reason, rest assured it's because you ain't saying on. Because that's their fear. That is what they are fearful of. Some of them can't afford it. Some of them tell me they would love to help the government, but they can't. They don't make enough money. They don't make the money that the consultants that we got about here. And that's one of the things I would like to know, how many consultants you got, how much you're paying them. Because every public officer from the Governor General down, their salaries are published in the official gazette. But these consultants who come in and get a bunch of money, I hear some people talking about $30,000 a month. That's money the Prime Minister makes, you know. And they make these fancy salaries, but nobody tells you how much they're making. And they should, because this is government money. This is government money. The spending it should be clear. You should know. You shouldn't have to guess. I can tell you how much the president makes by starting out opening the official gazette. I can tell you how much the clerk makes. I can tell you everybody in the public service, from Governor General down to the maid. But you have consultants, you have the amount of salaries you're giving them. Get back some money from them, get rid of some of them. And if you want also to save money, you have a lot of ministries that are necessary. You have 26 ministries. I think that is one of the biggest cabinets in the Commonwealth. I think England has 27 or something like this, but 24. Under Theresa May it was 23. You need to take these little minuscule ministries that you have and put some of them on the back bench and save some salaries. There are too many of them and with too little to do. That is where you should be attacking first, not asking public officers to help you with your mess. Do your thing first. And when you do that, you trim the cabinet to the 12 that the leader of the opposition, then no Prime Minister, but saying that Barbados only need about 12. You trim it down to 14 then. And you get rid of all those consultants whose job is to calling program and curse me. You know, because you give them a contract, and the only skill they got is the calling program, and they are cussing at people. Get rid of them. And if you then need help, I would gladly tell the civil servants, because I know the government in trouble, because a lot of this is of the government's making. But then COVID come and make it worse. So I'm not being a fool and saying that the government completely destroyed the economic system. They were well on their way. Because you keep boasting about the government meeting the targets under the BERT program and stuff, you know. And but then I got the Auditor General's report, and it told me that some of that money was money that I'm going to count twice. But that is another matter. I ain't going there. I am not going there right now. I can let the Auditor General, you people battle that out right now. So I got more trust in the Auditor General than I got in you. If you want to, you have to give them government money. Because you know the audit general can audit any entity that receives money from the government, but you don't get PDP the money, so you can't audit them. You understand? So give them the money that you should get. All right? So, Mr. President, let the government take care of in-house things first. Get rid of some of the bloated cabinet. I mean, you get rid of the bloated cabinet, you get rid of a bunch of permanent secretaries too, you know. Because our biggest problem in Barbados is that we are top-heavy. Everybody always talking about they got too many civil servants. You don't got too many civil servants, you got too many heads. You got too many heads. And the people who actually do the work on a daily basis, you send them home. You send home a lot of them. Last year, when you got 1,300 people, a lot of those were the workers, you know, the people that are actually doing the work. And I'll give you an example. Corporate affairs. Corporate affairs in the Electoral Property Office, Kaipo, had about 50 staff. The last administration passed a law that required companies to send returns every year. Every company in Barbados then had to send their returns to the Corporate Affairs Department. Corporate Affairs, and didn't give them a single soul to do that work. And you had lines stretching out around the tree down by the baobab things to get those things done. You could not get it done. And then you could also get the work. Mind you, before they did that, Corporate Affairs was saying we need staff. Now comes this government. We can't be as straining under the load that you give us to do. You want us to register these companies on a timely basis and to get these international businesses up and going, but we don't have the staff. So you know what you did? You cut the people that actually do the work. You cut off 8 or 9 of them. So you had 50, and the 50 couldn't get the work done, and you take away 8. No, you need to take away from the top. You have too many ministers, you have too many permanent secretaries, then you have too many deputy permanent secretaries. You see, because each ministry now got all these things. You'll be surprised how much money you will save if you take away some of these people from the top, because they're doing nothing, you know. All they do basically is to, when they don't know what to do, they're going to find trouble with staff and get the staff a lot of stress. You know what the worst things for some of these heads of departments? When people were asked to work from home, they had nobody to make miserable. They came in, they were actually texting people and WhatsApping people and trying to harass them because mind you, people are productive. I am talking to also, this is this place now, Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. People working from home, working well, and doing more work than they've ever done before. And they tell them, no, you come in the office. You want to know you come in the office because you want to bug them. So they were supposed to come in from this week. And they're not socially distanced either. But these people don't know what to do. They ain't got nothing to do, so they've got to make trouble with the staff. Get rid of some of them. You have too many of them. Leave the people who do the actual work. And you will save tons of money. And do it. I don't know, Mr. President. Government seems to always get it backwards. You know, many hands don't necessarily make light work. It is like many hands putting salt in the pot. Too many cooks spoil the broth. Sir, I'm obliged to you, and I hope that government had listened to at least a few of the things that I said.
I now recognize Senator Rudy Grant.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I ask myself this question. As I look at this bill that is before us today, and the question I ask is, why are we at this point. Sir, to deny the impact and the effects of COVID-19, to deny the reality of where that has taken us, to the point where Barbados had to close its borders, to the point, to commercial business that is, to the point where persons had to stay at home, to a point where, sir, the major foreign exchange earning sector has come to a halt. A situation, sir, where there are literally no revenues going to tourism enterprises, and where a number of other businesses have been affected because of the reality of COVID-19. So I start by saying that when you seek to make a presentation and you do not reflect on the reality of what exists, you are exhibiting signs of willful ignorance. Sir, I came in this chamber this morning, and like everyone else, I was wearing a mask. There are persons still in the chamber, sir, wearing a mask. And the truth is that these are extremely difficult and challenging times. And the government of Barbados has said that through policy initiatives, it will seek, sir, to assist and protect the most vulnerable in society, while also seeking to maintain jobs. Mr. President, that is not an easy task in this environment. And we must stop acting and talking and speaking and behaving as if we are existing in an environment that is the same as it was pre-COVID-19, because it is not. And what we are doing, sir, is that we are functioning irresponsibly if we make arguments to suggest that the environment in which we now have to function in is one that is easy and one that is in any way reflective of what the environment was pre-COVID-19. Sir, Barbados has approximately about a million seats coming into Barbados as a destination. There's obviously, sir, a desire to get business functioning again, tourism businesses functioning, the desire, sir, of opening up the country. But the reality is, sir, that when the country is opened, you will see a situation where, when we would have been receiving previously approximately about 20,000 seats a week, that there will only be about 2,000 to 3,000 seats, a fundamental difference between pre-COVID-19 and now. And it's a reality, sir, that we have to face. It is a reality, sir, that we have to be conscious of, and we have to seek to ensure, sir, that we institute measures which are able to protect the vulnerable and at the same time maintain jobs. That is fundamental. And sir, this BOSS program seeks to do that while dealing with a reality of a significant loss in revenues. Revenues will be lost of at least $500 million or more. So that is the reality of what we have to deal with. It is not made up. It is not Rudy Grant saying so. It's not the leader of government business saying so. It is the reality of what it is. Then what do we do as a government and as a people to try to ensure that everyone can live? It's not an easy task. So this program, the Barbados Optional Savings Scheme, provides an option to public servants. And I want to start by reflecting on the option, because I heard the last speaker make a statement that this is a salary cut. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is not a salary cut. You would have heard the leader of government business, sir, indicate that persons have the option to opt in or to opt out. Those public servants who wish at the end of the month to get all of their cash can still get all of their cash. The option is there. But at the same time, there's the reality that the government has to face as to how it will deal with the significant loss in revenue, and how at the same time government will be able to stimulate business activity in order to create more jobs. So this is not a salary cut. Sir, if it was a cut in salary, then there is a portion of your salary that you would not receive and a portion of your salary that you would not have access to. I can say so, sir. I can say so. Because I have taken a salary cut. And there's a portion of my salary that I am not receiving, that I will not get, that I will not see anytime in the future. That represents a salary cut. But what is being proposed in the BOSS program, Mr. President, is not a salary cut. And I'm not saying, sir, and I'm not suggesting that in normal times and under normal circumstances, this is the mechanism that you would use. But what I'm saying is that in the environment in which we are in, we have to face the reality and we have to put the specific measures in place. So I indicated that government would have stated very early that one of its primary objectives is to protect the vulnerable. And the leader of government business stated that those persons earning less than $36,000 annually are not being asked to participate. Of course, if they want to participate in the program, then they can. But they're not being asked to participate at that level of income. And then, of course, the provision for bonds that is provided at a different tiers, different percentages of your income. But you're given bonds, and you can opt in or you can opt out. Sir, I heard talk about the $154 million expected to be utilized from this particular measure. And I you know, before I get there, let me make this point. There was a suggestion in the words of the last person who spoke that there was a suggestion that the government was seeking to intimidate workers. Sir, I do not believe that to be true at all. But you know what happens sometimes? There are those individuals, sir, who seek to create issues where there are none. There are those individuals who seek to muddy the waters for their own, sometimes political and personal purposes. There has never been a suggestion, never a policy position taken, never a decision taken by, as far as I'm aware, a minister, a parliamentary secretary, a permanent secretary, to intimidate workers in this country. In fact, sir, I think that the Barbados Labour Party as a government can be proud that it has sought to walk hand in hand with Labour. And a serious component of this program has been a decision of the government to dialogue with the workers' representatives. And so that is fundamental to the program. So that the talk and the suggestion that the government is seeking to intimidate the workers, that, sir, is simply not true. We are here at this point because of the challenges that I've identified and pointed out to you, sir. It has absolutely nothing to do with intimidation. And let me make this point too, sir. Those who claim to know the history of the Barbados Labour Party will know that the Barbados Labour Party has always had its grounding in labour. Always had its grounding in labour. And the party has never moved away from that. Sir, there was this suggestion, the $154 million, that the desire is simply to put money in the hands of certain people, to give them more money. I think the statement was made that they supported the party before, and you go and give them some money now. Again, sir, nothing can be further from the truth. And I'm sure, sir, that the last speaker's colleague, an economist, would be able to tell him that if you are able to spread the money, you can have more economic activity taking place. So the government, yes, is utilizing $154 million to support capital expenditure, to support paving roads, to support water authority, to support different activities that the expectation is that jobs will be created as well. So what you do, sir, is that you're spreading the pot. Yes, you don't have a lot of money, but you're spreading the pot and you're giving to more people some money. And the economist on the other side would say to her colleague that there is the multiplier effect. When you have more people participating and you have more money being spent, you have greater economic activity. And his colleague, I'm sure, will speak to him in relation to the issues of the constituents of the gross domestic product, of which consumption is one. I still, sir, remember a little about it. C plus I plus G plus the net of X minus M minus T equals to the gross domestic product. The value of goods and services, sir. Remember a little about it. Remember a little about it. So consumption is an important element, and once you have more people spending, then you're creating greater economic activity. activity. Because you know, sir, the survival of Barbados and the survival of people will depend on our ability to keep people employed, will depend on our ability to look after people. It will not come by talk. I hear Senator Franklin, a lot of long talk. That's what it is, a lot of long talk. But it's more than just talk in running the affairs of a country. And it's more than just talk in looking after the welfare and the well-being of people. If you are going to criticize, nothing is wrong with that. But bring to the table some viable and some workable alternatives. Because you know what, sir? We are all in this together. And sorry, you see, in this COVID-19 environment, when I look on the other side, I don't see political colors, you know. I look on the other side, I see my friend Senator Driggs. I'm always encouraging her, sir, to come with me. I'm encouraging her, sir, to come with me, because ours is a political party where we are serious about developing policies and discussing programs to help improve people's lives. Not just to talk for talking's sake. Mr. President, I think that this piece of legislation is very important. It helps to take us a step forward to assist with greater economic activity in what we now know as an uncertain world. The future, sir, is not certain. We do not know the circumstances that will befall us tomorrow. But what we have to do, Mr. President, is to put the measures in place today to safeguard the people of this country, to safeguard the workers of this country, and to ensure that there is a better and brighter tomorrow for all. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this sitting be now suspended for 1 hour for lunch.
2:15. So it's to accommodate lunch. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it, and we are now at lunch.